Let's call our May 9 meeting to order. It's our second meeting of the month of May. Can you believe it? Because we had some very dedicated Laugh Lab Storymaster members give what I hear was a fabulous presentation at our District 32 conference. So my thanks to Emmy, to Karen, to Cynthia, and to Phil. I don't know if other members showed up at the meeting, but thank you so much.
I was there. I was timer.
Okay, that's right. Cheryl was timer for the evening. Thank you. And how did it go? Emmy, if you could give me a 30 seconds.
Well, I thought our section went really well. Ours was the second educational section. The first was from Sound Advice, I think, was sponsoring it. It was table topics. I would have liked a little more excitement in that one. It was, yeah.
Not as.
But ours was very well done. We had a lot of good comments afterwards. And everybody was really questioning and really impressed by the thought that we continue to work on speeches throughout the year.
Nice.
So I made sure to emphasize that we are practicing adding humor and storytelling and, and that it doesn't happen just giving a speech once, that you have to work on it, improve it, and move forward. So that was well received. And so I think it went pretty well.
Good. I do appreciate so much you doing that. I did hear from Melissa that were good things. And I did actually ask Melissa, but Kyle and I kind of thought of this like, yesterday or the day before, I guess, Tuesday. Oh, could we, by the way, send tonight's meeting information to all the participants? So I actually don't know if any of them got it, but it's certainly not too late. We can still reach out and talk to them about future meetings. So that was a good little bit of PR for our club.
We did tell them, Mary, that we were meeting tonight and sent them an invite to the thing.
And I think you included the Zoom Zoom link in the chat. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
So let's do a little bit of business. We have a new member we have a new membership application to vote on, and that would be Joel Pushparaj. So I think we've already got him on the schedule. I think we will forego putting Joel into a breakout room. You're just gonna have to sweat it out with us live, Joel. Live. So Cynthia,
I don't know.
Cynthia presented an application. Do I have a motion to accept his application?
I move.
I'll second.
Right. And Kyle seconded. And any discussion?
Well, now that we know how to pronounce his name, I think we owe it to him to elect him into the club. Yeah.
All right, all in favor? Raise your hand. Excellent. Any opposed? I see no opposed because we all raised our hand. Welcome to our newest member, Joel. Thank you so much. And tonight you're doing an icebreaker. Woo-hoo! I will defer the other club business till the end of our meeting, and that is to have our officer elections. So we have a slate, and at some point in the meeting, I will try to put that towards the end of the meeting, maybe at our break, I'll put the slate into our chat so you can see who all the people are who step forward to an officer role. Well, I'm so excited about tonight's meeting because I can really learn a lot from playing with words. Is it something that I feel I falter on a bit? But we have some really champion wordsmiths in our club this evening. And sharing with us, leading us through this entire meeting is our very experienced Toastmaster, Phil Pearson. Phil, welcome, Toastmaster of the night. Turning it over to you.
Thank you, Madam President, for that warm welcome, and to everybody that's joining us tonight. This is going to be an excellent example of what Laugh Lab Storymasters does for us as members and for those guests that join us even. We have both an educational portion of the meeting, and then there's an opportunity for practice speakers to put into action perhaps some of the things they learned tonight and some of the things that they've learned in previous experiences during the last year of our storytelling journey. Without going too far, but I want to also introduce our timer and ask Cynthia if she would tell us about her role as timer.
Yes, today I'll be timing all the speeches. I believe they're all 5 to 7, except Lee, I didn't hear how long his was.
Was that? You're asking about mine, Emmy?
Yeah, Cynthia. Yeah,
Oh, Cynthia. Okay. I'll do 13 to 15 if I can.
13 to 15. Okay. And I will be timing all the evaluators too, so there's a lot of timing going on today. And I will be timing the break. I will be showing my background will change. When you hit time, it will go green. Then it will go yellow. And then red is your sign to wrap up and get off the stage.
Okay, let's give Cynthia a hand. Thank you very much. Oh, did Cynthia?
I have a question.
It looks
Yeah.
like Cynthia's. Oh, there she is. No, I thought you froze.
Cynthia? Joel's doing an icebreaker. Is he doing 4 to 6 minutes or 5 to 7?
Oh, 4 to 6. I gotta write that down.
Actually,
Everybody
he
else is
asked
doing-
for 6 to 8.
Oh, okay.
He's doing an icebreaker. At least that's what I assigned it, but he asked for 6 to 8.
Oh, 6 to 8. Okay.
I just thought I'd bring it up and see if it was any different than the others. So
Did I capture that wrong, Joel?
I think we'll keep it to 4 to 6 if that's okay, and then my next speech can be a 5 to 8. Sure, yeah. Thank
Okay.
you. Thanks.
Okay.
May I ask for 6 to 8 for my prepared speech? This
Yes.
is Hannah. Thanks.
6 to 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Emmy, just so I get it all right, you are doing 5 to 7, right? Emmy,
Yes, it's a contest speech.
5 to 7. Kyle,
5 to 7.
5 to 7. I meant to get this all done before I got on the meeting started, but my stupid Zoom froze and I had to unstick the Zoom. But anyways, that is my role and I will do my best to do it.
All right, give Cynthia a hand. Thanks, Cynthia, for unsticking your Zoom and sticking with it to join us tonight and be our timer and making sure everything gets cleared up before we get started. We do not have a dedicated grammarian tonight, but we do have many evaluators. In fact, one of the hallmarks of our club is that we give evaluations, not just once, not just twice, but thrice. 3 times you'll see, you'll have an opportunity to hear another individual's take on the speech presented. One person will be talking about the story evaluation, one about the content and effectiveness, and one about the humor. And we've developed a little sketch. All the evaluators should have a sheet to use to guide them in preparing their evaluations on whichever part of the speech that they are evaluating. As I mentioned, we don't have a dedicated grammarian, but those evaluators, maybe each of you can be really attentive to good turns of words, phrases, ideas, or maybe even word pictures, since that is kind of like what our theme might be. Now, we'll get into our program, and we have none other than Lee Amatangelo, who is our club treasurer, and is going to share with us the story basics, word pictures. Lee is a longtime Toastmaster, and tonight he asks us, don't tell me, show me. But if you tell me, paint a picture. Let's welcome Lee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Laugh Lab Storymasters, and our newest member, Joel. Glad to have you on board. Who can tell me what is considered the best opening line from a classic novel? Anybody want to venture a guess? There's so many.
It was a dark
ahead,
and
Phil.
stormy night.
Well, that's a good one. I'm going to talk about that a little later. That's not what I'm looking for, but good one. Phil.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
Ooh, I'm going to talk about that one too. And Cynthia, you had
That
one.
Phil stole mine.
Okay.
I got
You
one.
guys- You guys are on the right track.
I got one.
Yes. Oh, someone else wants to speak?
Once upon a time.
Once upon a time. Yes, that's been used many times. Not the best opening line. You guys might be surprised. It's from a novel you guys will know once I say the name, but it's just 4 words. They called me Ishmael. Moby Dick, Herman Melville. They called me Ishmael. Who's the they? And why are they calling me Ishmael? Is that my name? Is that a name they gave me? Am I a slave? Who are these people? So many questions just on 4 words, all the pictures that our mind starts to generate. So very, very cool opening line, but let's go do Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities. His opening line is a little longer than 4 words. It's actually the very first paragraph is 1 sentence. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epic of belief. It was the epic of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the winter of hope. It was the spring of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going straight to heaven. We're all going direct the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted upon its being received for good or for evil in the superlative degree of comparison only. Let's go into the second paragraph and I'll tell you why. There was a king with a square jaw and a queen with a plain face sitting on the throne of England. There was a king with a square jaw and a queen with a fair face sitting on the throne of France. It was the year of our Lord, 1775, and it was clear as crystal to the lords of state, loaves and fishes, that everything in general was settled forever. A little bit longer than Herman Melville's opening, but why did he do that? He just painted the backdrop of the French Revolution. The aristocracy believes we are who we need to be, and you guys are down below. Things are settled forever. That whole series of dichotomous contrast was to set up the haves and the have-nots. The word picture is incredible. Let's turn to some of our more accomplished storytellers. How about some of the world champions of public speaking? We'll look at 3 of them tonight. We talked about Herman Melville having just 4 words for his opening. Let's turn to a person who had just 7 words for their opening line, and yet it said so much along with a very specific gesture. Next time, Mr. Tate, slow down. We all know that from the 2000 world champion, Ed Tate. What just happened in that scene? Interactive, let's go, interactive. What just happened in that scene? 7 words.
He got a speeding ticket.
Mr. Tate just got a speeding ticket. Most people would spend a lot of time creating several sentences just to tell you they got pulled over, but in 7 words, and we're going to talk about why that's so important. Then he goes on to say, have you ever noticed that traffic cops are the slowest people in the world? And he gets a laugh and he says, thereby erasing all the time that you just made up. Gets another laugh. I did the calculation. if the traffic stays the same and I get a good parking spot up front, I can just make my flight. 3 sentences, and he has set up the entire theme for his speech coming up. Ran late for the airport. He might just miss his flight, and he's struggling to get there. Very powerful. What is powerful about all these openings, except for Chuck Dickens, who obviously missed the day when his teacher went on the run-on sentence? Okay. Here's what I want you to do, and I'm going to put this in the chat at the very end. 7 words for painting word pictures. Keep it brief. Keep it simple. Keep it to the point. Keep it descriptive. Keep it non-redundant. Keep it cerebral. Keep it succinct. Now, 4 of those words, the first, the third, the fifth, and the 7th, all mean exactly the same thing. I said it 4 times. It must be important. Keep it brief, to the point, non-redundant, and succinct. When you want to create a picture, use the least amount of words that you need in order to do that. The least amount of words. Keep the words simple. Keep your overall message of your speech, your story, or your presentation. Keep it simple. Keep the sentences simple. Keep the words simple. Get to the point. When you want to compete in the various speech contests that Toastmasters offers, you have a certain amount of time. And if you go outside that time, what happens? You just didn't buy the lottery ticket. You're never going to win the lottery. You must be in that time. What I spend most of my time on my competition speeches is getting to the point. Keep everything as succinct and brief as possible, because it keeps the audience in tune with what you're saying. Descriptive. Use sensuous words. And what do I mean by that? Bring in words that bring in all of your senses. Tell them how it felt by touch. Tell them how you heard it, how you smelt it, how it tasted, what you saw. That's what the audience wants. Bring their senses into your word pictures, and they will experience what you experienced. Non-redundant. Don't keep saying words over and over. That's going to put an audience to sleep. And what you're trying to do is get them to your message. So you keep it brief, to the point. And then the other one is cerebral. Make the audience think, or as I like to say, make the audience do work. We're going to do some examples of all those. The person who won the World Championship of Public Speaking, we brought him to our club, Presyan Vasilov, used the least amount of words to win the World Championship. Let's look at how he opened up his story and the word pictures that he created. Let's go to the masters. The steering wheel jerked. I tried to keep the car in control. That night in Chicago, a flat tire changed me. I pulled to the curb across from the bright lights of the service station, parked on a slope leading down to a very busy street. Mr. Contest Chair, Toastmasters, and guests, have you ever done something stupid? I broke the first rule of changing a tire. Choose a level spot. Friends, in Chicago, there aren't many hills, but that night, I found one. Why do flat tires always happen when you're dressed up? I opened the trunk, excavated the jack, a rusty piece of metal, unused for centuries. So what is he doing? He's creating these word images and he's making us laugh, kind of like what Ed Tate did. Now write this down. The most important element you should focus on when you do your speeches, presentations, or stories, focus on entertainment. I'm talking about word pictures tonight. Kyle's going to talk about wordplay, which is typically humor, but it can also be very interesting word phrases. This becomes cerebral for the audience. It makes them laugh. It makes them think. Entertainment is more important than the message. Now, don't jump out of your chairs. Every story, every presentation, every speech must have a message. I didn't say your speech story or presentation should not have a message. I'm just saying entertainment is much more important. I could have the greatest message in the world. I could have solved all cancers. And I go before an audience and I speak in a very monotone voice and I have a PowerPoint presentation that's way up there and everybody starts falling asleep. My message gets lost, even though it would have been the most important message. So the entertainment value is what we do to get the audience to like us. And once they start liking us, we have built a rapport with them. And once we build that rapport with them, they want to listen to us. And as we become entertaining, as we become humorous, as we do interesting stuff with our words, they start to think automatically that we're more intelligent. This happens all throughout our life. The more precise and the more interesting you are as a speaker, your audience, it could be one-on-one, it could be you and your boss, it could be you in your staff meeting, they automatically think you're more intelligent. Focus on the entertainment value of your speeches and then deliver the message. They are now so ripe for that. Okay, so what did we do here in Impression's speech, right? He sets up what happened. He tells us where he is. What city was he in? He was in Chicago. And what happens in Chicago? It's a pretty flat place. It's in the Midwest, not many hills, but he tells us he finds one. And he tells us he's in a very precarious position. His car is on a steep slope and he has to change the tire. And he goes through the rest of the speech. It's very funny. It's very interesting. And when you look at his speech, there are a lot of pauses. Every sentence he says is meaningful, and he usually follows it up with something funny, as if he's doing setup, punchline, setup, punchline. And he's creating this picture of him being there. But not only is he creating the picture, he is showing us. He's all dressed up in a suit. So when he says, how come you always get a flat tire when you're dressed up? He takes off his jacket. His sleeves are already rolled up. He probably learned that by practicing his speech. That you don't want to waste time rolling up the sleeves. He looks like he's ready to work on his tire. And he curls up his jacket and it looks like the tire on the ground. And he goes and he shakes the car to get the tire out and the whole car shakes. This is after he's jacked it up. And the jack collapses. The car collapses. His lungs collapse. And of course, he gets a big laugh, but he uses the sequence of 3, and he's just painting this picture for us. And then he does something very special in that speech. As speakers, we don't just use words with our voice. Randy Harvey barked like a dog. He makes the sound of an object, and everybody in the audience goes, wow, that sounds just like that object. And the object he talked about was that rusty piece of metal he pulled out of his trunk, the jack. And he makes the squeaky sound. And then the guy that comes to help him, and he doesn't really belabor, but the guy comes on, and it sounds just like a squeaky jack. It was beautiful. So he's not only painting a picture with his words, he's doing it with his gestures and his movements. And that's what we do as storytellers, as presenters, as speech writers. Okay, let's turn to the other world champion of public speaking, and we'll wrap it up with him. My favorite, 2004, Dr. Randy J. Harvey. And he has a beautiful speech, inspired by 2 Corinthians. He's a very Christian-oriented person. When I was 7, we drove to my cousin's house for dinner and to show off my daddy's new car, 1964 Fairlane. On the way, I fell asleep in the back. When we arrived, my parents left me sleeping as they went on up to the house. As I woke, I stumbled out of the car and started heading on up to the porch. I was attacked by a pack of black and tan hunting hounds. My heart jumped, and so did I. First to the trunk of my daddy's new car, and then I made my way to the roof. I was frozen like a treed raccoon. Just then, this mean one-eyed dog began to claw and scratch his way up under the trunk. His yellow teeth were foaming and snapping at me. I was standing in water. It was my own. But this dog kept screeching and slipping his way up on the glass when all of a sudden I heard, "Son," and I dove to that familiar voice to be caught in the strong arms of my daddy. As a young child, security wore strong arms wrapped in flannel, with a slight aroma of cherry tobacco and a thunderous bellow that could scatter a pack of hounds like cottonseed on the wind. Okay, what did Randy Harvey do there? Several. He made us think. The year is 2004. How old was he at the start of this story? 7 years old. And what was the year of his daddy's new car? 1960, Ford Fairlane. And you can do the math. You take 7 away from 60. He was born in 1953. He's on the stage in 2004. We just figured out Randy Harvey's 51 years of age. He got cerebral with us there. He did little things that brought the audience in closer. He did asides like 1964 Fairlane, like he's telling us a little secret, but he's giving us a very specific fact. He's painting this picture. And he took us back to that time by saying 1960. How many people started thinking about what you were doing in 1960? When he said, when I was 7, how many of you started thinking about when you were 7? And then what did we do when we were kids? When we go to our aunt and uncle's house, we always said it was our cousin's house because we're thinking as children, talking about the children at that house. So he's painting these word pictures that relates to who we are. Everything in all these speeches by these world champions are brief, to the point, non-redundant, and succinct. They're simple words, simple messages, simple sentences, very descriptive, and they're very cerebral. They make us laugh, they make us think, and they make us do mental work. That's what we do when we create word pictures for our audience. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lee. Let's give him a hand. And excellent introduction into our topic for this evening. Now we are going to transition to our next speaker. And our next speaker is Kyle. So Kyle is also our Zoom master. So I'll let him do the spotlighting that he needs to do or get ready to do. There we go. Do we want to be thought of as witty? Of being a wit? Our next speaker tonight will help us get witted. He will help us explore some of the clever rhetorical excursions we can use to add humor to our speeches and our daily communication. Talking about the serious business of wordplay, please help me welcome Kyle Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters. And let me release Phil from being spotlighted. In the fall, in the autumn of this year, my wife and I had a new counter put in. We went down and we picked out a slab of granite and they cut it, and they were going to come in and the counter people were going to come in and install this counter. Well, we had to take out the old counter, and I could have paid somebody to do it, but I decided to do it myself. And I went through all the work, and then they came in and installed the counter, and it looked beautiful. And I decided I have to make a speech out of this for my home club. Obviously, if I did some work, I need to make a speech out of it. So I had photos of the kitchen before, the kitchen while I was ripping the counter out, the kitchen with the counter going in, and all that stuff. And while I was thinking, yeah, okay, I can talk about that. How do I make it fun? How do I make this fun? I mean, I'm talking about home improvement project. How do I make it funny? I'm going to play with language. I'm going to use some funs. So I called my speech counter espionage. And I went in and I talked about how the fact that I had to disassemble the counter and I had to climb under cupboards and figure out how to pull the cupboards apart so I could get at the underside and drill screws out and whatnot. I had to use counterintelligence. And once the counters were out, we had to measure everything to make sure the new counters were going to come in. So I had to make some very accurate countermeasures. And all of this speech is going on with my dropping these puns in once in a while. And I told them at the end, I felt like a successful warrior, like I had successfully performed a counter coup. And I was so pleased with myself for presenting this short 5 to 7 minute home maintenance talk and trying to make it funny. And as we're leaving, Judy Stein is walking out with me and she says, "Hey, Kyle, I really liked your talk. It was counterintuitive." Oh, oh, oh. She nailed me. I completely missed that pun and she nailed me with it. Oh, it was very good inspiration on her part. I want to talk to you today about some of what went on there and some of the ways we can use words, we can play with words in our talks. Now, I put a link in the chat to a handout. If you haven't already clicked on it and pulled it up, I hope you will. I spent a little time researching wordplay. And as Phil said in my intro, they described it as, I described it as clever rhetorical excursions. Well, I went to the source of all knowledge in the universe, Wikipedia, and searched on wordplay, and they described it as wordplay as puns, phonetic mix of obscure words, meanings, oddly formed sentences, double entendres, and clever rhetorical excursions. What the heck is a clever rhetorical excursion? And then I spent some more time looking up some of the various types of wordplay they were talking about. And I've captured most of them on the handout. I'm going to cover them very briefly. In every case, I give you the name of the wordplay technique, a definition, and an example. For instance, the first one is antonyms, a word opposite in meaning to another. George Burns used this. He's the source of the quote, "The key to success is sincerity. Once you can fake that, you've got it made." So he's using antonyms there to create humor. I already talked about puns. I love puns. I've always loved puns. And of course, no pun is mature until it's full grown. Think about it. As Mary slams her head against the desk. Now there's a obscure, at least I think it's an obscure subcategory of puns called Swifties or Tom Swifties. The example they have here is, "Hurry up to the back of the boat, to the back of the ship," said Tom sternly. Okay. I'm not going to go through all of these, and I want to point out analogy. An analogy is a comparison of two things. Now, we talked about that way back at the beginning of our year of stories and laughter. It's a great way to explain something complex. It's also a great way to create humor. So you can look at the example of the Winston Churchill example I have here. Analogy is one of the easiest things to work with. Spoonerisms are wordplay, but they tend to happen by accident. It's where you switch two consonants. You switch the first consonant of one word with a first consonant sound of another word. The example I have here is the gentleman, Dr. Spooner, who meant to tell his students that they had wasted the whole term, and he told them they had tasted the whole worm. But you're probably not going to plan that. Malapropisms might be useful. Athanameria. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right. That's where you take a word and create another type of word. Like in this case, we have the old lady turtled across the road. You're taking a noun and using it to create a verb. Okay, we could play with that. Double entendre. Double entendre is where you're using a word that has multiple meanings. I want to give you 2 examples right from the page. Groucho Marx said, "If I said you had a beautiful body, would you hold it against me?" And Oscar Wilde named his play The Importance of Being Earnest. Earnest has two meanings. Now, Oscar Wilde and Groucho Marx, these guys are full-on wits. And, you know, I'm not. I'm still learning. I'm only a half-wit. So, but we can learn, we can grow. In the portmanteau, you can combine words like humorist and evaluator. Very appropriate for our club if we had a humorator. And I'm going to jump to the next page, the second page. Winston Churchill, this is one that was not listed. I added this. The comeback. Winston Churchill was a master of that. The primary thing, though, is if somebody's insulting you, you have to accept the premise of the insult and then run with it. It's very much like improv, accepting the premise of the thing coming at you and then using it. And he was a master of that. Now, I have an exercise for you. I give you an example of me doing this exercise with the phrase wordplay. I would suggest take a talk you're working on, take a phrase out of that talk, and then go through it and see what you can come up with. Can you come up with an antonym, a pun, an analogy, a spoonerism, a malapropism, a double entendre? Go through the work, see what I've done here, because what I'm doing here is I'm experimenting with the wordplay to see what I can do with it. And we do not learn to do this instantly. It takes practice. It takes a willingness to experiment and then to try it out on a group. And if you try it out on the group and they laugh, you will feel like a wit. And if you try it on the group and they don't laugh, you'll feel like a miswit. But that's okay. That's okay, because being a miswit is part of the process of becoming a wit, of learning to use wordplay to improve our speeches. So I hope this will be a useful tool to you, and I'm going to turn control back to our Toastmaster, Phil Pearson.
Thank you so much, Kyle. Well done. I see that Lee has entered a comment into the chat. Well done, Lee. We are now going to switch from our educational portion of our meeting into the practice speaking part of our meeting. Our first speech is going to be I understand, a practice speech of a contest speech. So I am going to be introducing Emmy just as she would be introduced during a contest. First, I'm going to let Emmy get settled wherever she's going to get settled, and then I'm going to check her microphone. Can you hear us, and can we hear you?
I have a bit of a problem. I clicked on chat and went to the wordplay handout. I'm stuck in the handout. I can't see the meeting. Does anyone know what they've changed, how they've changed Zoom? How do I get back to the meeting? This is the most bizarre thing.
Is there a tab on your internet? I don't know what you have. You have an Apple, I think, so at Mac. I don't know.
Can you move the document, Emmy? Because mine showed up on away from the.
Well, I'm going to close it and see what happens. No, it doesn't. I thought I could use my tab, shift tab to go back to.
Try Command Tab.
Yeah, well, on my Mac, it's I have a different. Anyway, yeah, it is Command Tab, and I have a little gallery view, but I cannot see myself, and I cannot see the window. I can't even see whether you are seeing me or not.
We can see
So,
everybody.
We
want
see
to
and hear
bring-
you fine, so if that is helpful.
well,
May I
yeah.
make a suggestion? May I make a
If you've got two
suggestion?
screens, you might have the wrong screen up.
Well, I've tried going to,
Is there an escape
May
key
I
on the
suggest,
map?
Mr. Toastmaster, we just move to the next speaker, allowing Emmy
Oh, sure.
time to
I might just, I'll get out and come back in.
to the meeting.
That's
I'm
perfect.
Meanwhile, we could move evaluators, you all stay the
Yeah.
same. You'll be the evaluator for Emmy, but we will switch to our next speaker first.
Thank you. That's that wealth
Thank
of
you.
Toastmasters experience coming through. Thank you, Mary. And so we are going to shift now to our second speaker, who is Helen Herr. And I'll let Kyle, if you would spotlight Helen, and then I will do the introduction once we get set up. Are you ready, Helen?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Why do we join Toastmasters? Why do we stay in Toastmasters? Why do we take leadership roles in Toastmasters? We all have busy lives and sometimes even personal challenges. Why not spend time in dealing with life instead of Toastmasters? Today, DTM Helen Herr will answer these questions. She will take us through a journey of our own lives to see the hero within us. We'll explore these 3 key pillars that hold us up as a hero. These insights apply not only to our personal growth in Toastmasters, but especially to our professional lives beyond Toastmasters. Let's give a warm welcome to Helen Herr.
Thank you. Helen Branchard, the first woman international president, once said, when you get out of Toastmasters, all you can get out of Toastmasters, you will never get out of Toastmasters. Hello, Toastmasters. Have you ever been asked this question? What keeps you staying in Toastmasters? I'm sure you will have your answer, but my answer is Toastmasters has always been keeping me grow. 10 years ago, when I first joined Toastmasters, I thought it was just a tool to improve my speaking. But after all these years, I learned that it was a journey of my own life. It was a journey that helped me grow as a person. And it was a journey that allowed us, each of us, to see the hero within ourselves. Being a hero means you challenge yourself to be stronger. And there are 3 key pillars that hold you up during the journey. There are 3 M's. The first M is membership. And the second is mindset. And third one is mission. Let's talk about the first M, membership, which means you find an environment and group people that support you. We cannot do this alone. When I joined Toastmasters as a young professional, I was working for a Fortune 500 company and have a very optimistic future. My boss trusts me and knew how to get best out of me. And then it all changed. A new boss, a new project, and a sudden request like putting me walking on the thin ice. The ice broken. I failed in my presentation and boss became so angry. Helen, why couldn't you be more confident? He decided to punish me by taking away my bonus. My once bright future seemed to have a downward turn. With this personal darkness, I went to my Toastmaster meeting for the first time. Here I meet a group of warm and enthusiastic people, and they want me to succeed. And I did achieve success in making my speech. Every time when I finish speech, I will receive a bunch of enthusiastic, motivational, and constructive feedback that challenge me to grow better. And I also did well in speech contest. I made it to the district final after 18 months. Now I feel I'm moving through my personal storm. It was because of the people who around me that has been supporting me. With every little success I achieved, my confidence grew. And this was because of people who helped me to elevate my game. I, in turn, want to support more members to grow. And I become club officers and committed to improve the skill levels of my groups. Now, I'd like to invite you, in your personal challenge time, find a group of people that help you to grow out of your comfort zone. Find a position of leaderships that help you to learn the new skills and use that new skills to help others. Find a mentor that will challenge you to use that skills to grow outside of Toastmasters. And when you find that supporting group of memberships, you move forward. The second M is mindset. All of our behaviors are driven by an invisible hand. That is our mindset. With every new success comes with a new perspective and a new mindset. Do you agree? My mindset was changed by a club incident. It was during the COVID, and a club called me and saying, "Hey, Helen, our members are freaking out by losing their family members. Could you help us out?" I was thinking, I was nobody. I was not a medical doctor. I was not a rich man who can donate medical devices. How could I be possible to happen? And I feel scared too. I don't know what to say and what to do. But on the other side, another voice said, "Helen, come on, you are Toastmasters. You are a leader. Go there." I said, "I'll be there with you." I did went to their online meeting, but most of people shut on their camera. When I see this darkness, I feel the darkness in my heart. My voice came up again. "Alan, you are going to death today. You don't know what to say, and you don't know what to do. You will look stupid in front of your audience. Why not you run away?" And another voice said, "Helen, you are already here, and they are your members. You said you will be here with them." After a long pause, out of silence, something jumped off my mind. "Hey guys, what would you like to do when the pandemic is over?" I would like to eat whole noodles with Jasmine at that favorite restaurant. I would like to invite you guys to visit my newly decorated home. And a guy slowly opened his camera. "I want to cut my hair so that I can be handsome again." His answer elicited hearty laughter. With more and more members began to share their exciting answers, the meeting becomes warmer and warmer. At the end of the meeting, I was amazed to see so many smiling faces. And I knew I was wrong. I was wrong thinking I was powerless. I could do nothing. I could do nothing because I never done this before and I could fail. When I shift my mindset towards focusing on members by listening to them, by learning from them, by leaning on them, the answer will be automatically appear. Looking back, Toastmasters helped me to change my mindset to growth mindset. When we join Toastmasters, we probably think, we need to learn from others. We need to learn from past experience. We need to learn from the book. But it's soon we recognize that the best way of learning is learning by doing. We don't have to be great to start, but we have to start to be great. Learning from my experience, I feel I grew more as a person when I try to do something I never tried before. Have you ever also experienced this mindset shift? Maybe you're trying to do a humor speech to make your audience laugh. Maybe you are doing a meeting role you never tried in workplace. And maybe you're trying to communicate what happened at a meeting to your kids. Have you also trying to help someone to try something new? I do hope you get a chance to experience that, to experience how powerful you can be when you achieve the success. You trying something you never tried before. And when you shift your mindset to a growth mindset, we go forward. The third M is mission. One day my mentor asked me, have you ever think about what you can use your life for? Huh? I thought I was just earn a living and spend my life. I would never thought about that until I met another crisis. It was in 2019, I became the district director, and you know what happened? COVID. And the consequence is that our district lost 1,000 members and everyone feels frustrated. Even our leaders think of leaving the organization. They thought, hey, we lost our jobs, we had salary cut. Why not we spend more time in making more money? I feel loneliness. And I feel maybe I want to give up as well. I went to my last club meeting trying to say goodbye. And then I was surrounded by group people who have their personal challenge. Then I invite everyone to share their personal stories. Each one takes their turn. 5 minutes later, a lady stood up with all tears on her face and saying, hey guys, I know, I love Toastmasters, I need you. I lost my job a few months ago, but I could not share that with my family. I pretend to going for work every day, but end up spending the whole day in the public library. I live in such way. But when I got a chance to share with you and got listened by you today, I feel much relieved. I'm now ready to move on. She turned around to hug her fellow Toastmaster members without anyone saying anything. Everyone started to hug each other. At that time, my heart was shaking. Why we spend time in Toastmasters and why we needed Toastmasters at that time. We all longing for belonging. We all want to be heard, to be seen, to be loved. And isn't that what this Toastmasters mission is all about? Do you remember what our club mission? We provide a positive and supportive learning environment that empower everyone to grow. With that mission shining, I feel I pick up my hope again. I reach out to my district leadership teams and share my personal awakening with them and invite them to continue the journey with me. And with hundreds of calls made by our district leadership teams, our district finally earned back the 1,000 members we lost. And I feel, wow, my awakening has an impact on clubs and members. But this is not due to my power. This is because the inspiration of Toastmaster mission. I feel I can unleash my potential by serving a larger goal than myself. This is the only way that I can live in my life in a meaningful way. This is my mission. I try to transfer this power to more of the leaders. And so I become a coach for business leaders. And then I know what I'm trying to do is help them to unleash their power by serving their organization and team goals. empower others to succeed. This is my mission. This is Toastmaster mission. And this is your mission. And when we be able to find that mission of ourselves, we all go forward. My dear fellow Toastmasters, this is the life story each of us has a chance to write. This is a journey that each of us had a chance to work. And this is a journey. This is an impact that each of us has a chance to make. But don't leave it to chance, because this life-changing power is not happening by luck, but by the hard work and alignment of our mission to help those around us. And you are the hero, and on your journey, seize the opportunities to find your support groups of your memberships. Seize the opportunities to make a positive change in your mindset, and seize the chance to find your mission and grow from it. You will become the hero you were born to be. Back to our Toastmaster of the evening.
Thank you very much, Helen. Give Helen a round of warm applause. Thank you for sharing with us your speech. I'm going to now check to see if ME, have you figured out all your stuff?
I am, yes, good enough.
All right. Well, in that case, we'll just swap 1 and 2 as far as presentations, and we'll get right to it. Our next speaker is M.E. Bartholomew, The Story of Me. Oh, that's not it. No, M.E. Bartholomew. I had the wrong introduction. Sorry. Bad Toastmaster. Start over. Rewind. M.E. Bartholomew. Don't make them guess. Don't make them guess. M.E. Bartholomew.
When did you last make people guess what you need? It's 1990. Working full time, single mother, the holidays, a recipe for exhaustion. Oh, the paper. Local school children write to Santa. Dear Santa, I want a room of my own for Christmas with a door that closes and everything. Love, Ariel. Ariel, that's my daughter. Oh. We are stuffed in this house like sardines. Jesse, I know you're the oldest, but do you suppose you could switch places with Ariel and let her have the bedroom for Christmas? Oh, Mom, that sounds like such fun. Let's do a switcheroo on Christmas Eve. She'll be so surprised. Christmas morning. Mommy, wake up! Santa gave me a room of my own for Christmas. The joy. Oh. My daughter, 6 years old, tells Santa exactly what she wants. Clearly, concisely, completely. No guessing involved. And she got it. Why can't I do that? Well, growing up, in our house, it wasn't safe to be seen or heard. It's too scary. I can't do anything like that. A decision I would come to regret. 20 years later. Hey, doc, I just need to lose weight, right? Afraid not, Mrs. Bartholomew. It's colon cancer. Colon cancer. Ah, doc, my mama died of colon cancer. Isn't there anything you can do? Yes, surgery tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Oh, surgery. Surgery. They took 7 feet of my colon. Oh, all right, all right, all right. It was only 7 inches. But that solved the problem, right? Not so fast. You see, while I was in recovery, I read a groundbreaking book by Louise Hay called You Can Heal Your Body. And in it, she tells us that just dealing with the symptoms doesn't really solve the problem. You have to get down to the emotional root of the problem. Oh, I've been stuffing all my wants and needs down into my guts for so long. I don't know how to do that. Therapy. You gotta help me. I don't know how to get rid of that fear of being seen or heard. Emmy, you let me worry about that. You need to stop putting other people's needs in front of your own. Tell them what you need clearly, concisely, completely. Don't make them guess. Oh, I think I've heard that before. Huh. Driving home from the therapist, I see a man by the side of the road with a sign, need sleeping bag, please. Well, his spelling is a little muddy, but the message is clear, concise, complete. He needs a sleeping bag. Hey, I can do that. I can do that. I speed up to the thrift store, run inside and purchase the first sleeping bag I can find, zoom back down. Here, will that do? Oh, I feel the joy and warmth that comes with giving someone what they need. Does that mean if I tell someone what I need and they can help me get it, they'll feel that same warmth and joy? Whoa, that's something worth working on. And it is work. The therapist helped me shine a light down into the deepest, darkest depths of myself and helped me to realize that it was now safe to be seen. She helped me communicate what I needed with people. I started to get what I wanted. Singing solo in church. Giving workshops about my healing practice. I got scheduled to speak at the Unity Church in town. I immediately ran out and joined Toastmasters so I could do a powerful presentation. And I must have done something right, because now I speak there on a quarterly basis, and they pay me. What would happen if you started to tell people what you needed, clearly, concisely, completely? Don't make them guess. Mr. Toastmaster.
Yes, I think applause is in order. Thank you, Emmy, for that your practice contest speech. I'm going to take 1 minute while we get ready to switch over to our final speaker. And I want to acknowledge Dr. Emeritus, our Division B Director, is in the meeting tonight. Doctor, I'm going to give you a chance to talk after we get done with all the speakers. I'll come back to you and maybe and hopefully give a more appropriate introduction. But I wanted to acknowledge I think he's here. So yes, he's still here. So let's give him a hand for thanking him for joining us. And Doctor, we'll come back to you right after our break, if that's okay. Okay, so now our fourth speaker. This time I have the right introduction for the right speaker. I have the right introduction, just the wrong speaker matched up with the two forms. You know how. So anyway, here we go. Tonight, with his first speech in our newest member's first speech in this club, Joel, hang on, with his icebreaker speech, Joel Pushparaj with the story of me. Let's give a warm welcome to Joel.
Awesome. Thank you, Toastmaster Phil. Just checking if I'm coming nice and loud and clear. All good. Wonderful. Thank you. Again, thank you for having me as a member of the club. It's a huge honor. What fitting way to give a brief speech about me, so you know, you all get to know me a little better, and you know, as we develop this you know, cadence, my intent is that you will get to know me better as I keep doing my speeches further down the line. My name is Joel Pushpraj. A little brief on that, on the meaning of Pushpraj. It basically means, you know, the best fragrance. Raj is a very common, you know, like a South Asian name. I think you would have heard it or in some way, shape, or form. Raj basically just translates to king, and Pushpa is what translates to fragrance or good smell. You know, so that definitely like translates my name to you know, the best fragrance. I was born and raised in Kuwait. It's in Middle East Asia, you know, the oil wealth and things like that. So my parents are originally from the south of Asia, that's India. And you know, back in the 1980s, with the oil boom in the Middle East, you know, they were chasing that, and you know, me and my siblings were born and raised in Kuwait. I was born in the year when the Edmonton Oilers hockey team won the first Stanley Cup Finals. You know, being in Canada, it's hard to miss hockey, and that year happens to be 1984. As a young child growing up in Kuwait, I was interested in sports, you know, and would play soccer in streets after school with kids with my friends, and in that way, you know, as I developed as I grew into a young boy, I would watch a lot of sports, especially the big soccer leagues in Europe. You know, it was pretty famous. We got them on television, and you know, we had those like jerseys or sweater for those those soccer t-shirts that we would wear them and you know, be proud of them. That was my lifestyle growing up. Another thing in Kuwait, other than the war, you know, with the oil wealth, it happened to be a melting point of cultures. People from all over the world came there for you know, either for work or like they found opportunities and they stayed there. They had families, kids that attend school, and I interacted with them. You know, they had very similar stories like mine. You know, the oil wealth grew them in there. So what that did to me is that it made me. I mean, I can speak 5 different languages. You know, it made I can understand when people from different cultures interact, and you know, I get the slang and things like that. So yeah, it was something interesting, like growing up in that spot where you know, different languages were spoken. Some of the things that I watched growing up was, you know, MTV and Channel V, Hollywood movies, all those things. So that definitely influenced a lot of my growing up years and you know, and my formative years in school. Um, so you know, kind of fast forwarding, I went to India, graduated after high school, and you know, did a post graduation study, uh, came back to Kuwait, and then worked in an electronics company that serviced medical equipments. It was there where I met my my wife, and you know, like we've been married for 13 years. We just celebrated our 13th anniversary a week ago, so you know, that was something exciting there. So what happened, and after that, you know, when me like in my yearly adult age, as in me and my wife, you know, we were growing up, and you know, we had careers and ambition, like you know, a 9 to 5 job, things like that. Um, Suddenly, as you know, with the with 9/11 happening, Middle East sort of got a lot of attention. There was a lot of coalition forces that came down to Kuwait. You know, Kuwait was one of the base camps where like troops were in, and they spread out. So what that happened was a lot of people from this part of the world would come up there, and you know, we interacted and socialized with them. Young families, you know, we kind of clicked together, um, and these folks came on a contract. So after the contract was over, you know, it was time for them to leave, and they were sad when they have to leave back to their home country. You know, like many of them opted to leave and not to stay back. It's just the lifestyle in Kuwait wasn't the greatest. So the money was good, but the lifestyle wasn't great. So, you know, the trade-off. When the third family told us that, you know what, we should think of moving to Canada. And I'm like, why us, Canada? You know, I mean, what's there for us? But then, you know, as we kept hearing that, I'm like, you know what, well, let's try, you know, like no harm in trying it. Fast forward 2019, our visas got approved to move to Canada. You know, our kids were born in Kuwait, but we got that opportunity to move to Canada, and you know, we took that step and that leap of faith, and you know, made it to Edmonton. That's in Alberta. And in 2020, as I was looking for a job, I got an opportunity to move up here in the Yukon. It's since then, you know, like we've been living here. COVID happened, and you know, all of those past 2 to 3 years that is still fresh in our memories was mainly in the Yukon. My kids attended kindergartens, you know, like their kindergarten classes, and they are in school in Yukon. So the life here is now going well. You know, definitely. This is kind of some of my brief. Now, come 2024, we have applied to be Canadian citizens, so that's in the process, you know. But definitely, we did move quite a bit there. This is kind of a little bit brief about me, but you know, as I stated earlier, I'm excited to share more stories as the meeting progresses, and as I, you know, open up and get comfortable with this wonderful group. Over to you, Toastmaster.
Well done. Thank you, Joel. Yes. How about them Oilers, huh? All right. That's awesome. Yes. Thank you for introduction to Joel. Thank you. That's a wonderful way to start to get to know you. Now we are at our time for a break, and we are also a little bit behind our schedule of events. So I'm going to suggest that we take, instead of a 5-minute break, that we do a 4-minute break. Boy, that's weird. 4-minute break. How's that? Now you can see all my fingers. Do a 4-minute break. When we come back, we'll give our Division B director a chance to introduce himself to our group, and then we're going to turn it right over to our general evaluator to lead through the evaluation portion. I think we would want to probably limit our evaluations to 2 to 3 minutes in order to get a little bit closer to our normal ending time. 2 to 3 minutes. So evaluators, if you can plan on that, Mary as the general evaluator, if you would help guide that as well. With that, I have right now 7:45 on my clock on my computer. If we can be back at 7:49.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Martesh. I am the member of Skim Toastmasters Club, and I am from India. I am working as a professor in the economics department, and also I am an author for the book called The Art of Reinventing You. My hobbies is I'm a yoga instructor. I used to do yoga instructor only for the students and old age people. And also I'm a passion in horticulture, livestock management. I have many animals in my farmhouse. And this is a short introduction of me. And also my book is published in the US Amazon. It's called, the book name called The Art of Reinventing You, which is available in the US Amazon. And coming to my position, I am working as an area director, um, and I am working as a division director in District 32. It is a great opportunity. I have learned many things, and I want to know about the club to submit the area director report for the district. And the club president would told that he would mail me to the email. Hence, I would hand over the stage to the Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, and thank you for joining us tonight at our meeting. What an honor to have you. We're glad to have you. I hope you can come back and visit many times in the future. I know your term is probably getting very close to the end, but we look forward to seeing you again. With that, I'm going to ask our Zoom master to get ready to Zoom or highlight our general evaluator tonight, who is Mary. Where's Mary? I lost.
I'm right here.
There you are. Mary Morrison is our general evaluator. And I will just reiterate, we are a little bit behind schedule, so keep that in mind and your evaluations. Thank you. Mary.
Thank you. We do have 3 evaluators for each speaker. I am going to go in the order listed. So we will begin with what was to be our first speaker, Emmy. And so I will begin with Karen McNamara, who is going to do the story evaluation for Emmy, and then she will pass it along to the rest of the team. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you very much, Madam General Evaluator, and especially Emmy for sharing your story with us. This is my second time hearing it, and it's changed quite a bit since then. I'm talking about your story evaluation. And when you have a story, we look at the characters, the setting, the scene, and the flow through, and what is your point in the story, and is it validated as you go? I felt your characters were your daughter, son, doctor, and therapist, and I think you did a good job of delineating who was speaking when. You could perhaps add in a little bit of change in your voice with the different characters. I think you used good flow and connection between your initial stories and then moving through. Perhaps the use of pause a little more, although I know you were close on time, so that may have played into that since it's a contest speech. But like when you were reading the paper and you discovered that it was your daughter's story that you were reading, a pause there that was my daughter. Oh my gosh. How am I going to do that? How are we going to get a room for her? We're in this tiny place, and, tie it together a little more with a pause for emphasis there. I think, as always, your gestures were very good. Your props, I think, were excellent. The sign I liked. You could potentially use the paper like you did once before. I love the applause at the end. I think that's very powerful. So I think, as far as things to work on your story, I have to say at the very end, I was trying to figure out exactly what your message was. So somehow I lost that. I wasn't sure whether you were trying to be, is it you want to be clear? Is it, I was trying to figure out the second story, the story of your cancer, and how did that fit in with the others? I didn't, at the end, I was like, okay, so what message are you trying to tell me at the end? So somehow tie them all together. I mean, I felt like it flowed. I understood your stories, your characters were good, and I liked the props, but I just somehow want to make sure I understand your message a little bit more powerfully. So that would be my recommendation to you. I love the story, Emmy, very, very powerful. And now I'm moving on to, is it Cheryl for the content effectiveness?
Thank you, Karen. Emmy, it's a pleasure for me to be your evaluator tonight. One of the things I was asked to put down is if I knew what your speech objective is. And I kind of thought maybe it was to communicate what I really needed, but I'm not sure if it was what you needed or what anybody needed. If it was like a combination of, because you talked about your daughter in the beginning wanting a bedroom. But I really thought that that's what it was so much, is like communicating what was really needed is what I think your speech objective was. And I think you did a pretty good job with that. I want to say that your audience engagement, your passion showed off right away in the beginning. Your passion of what you were talking about your Christmas and your daughter wanting a bedroom for Christmas. It pulled me in right away. And you were really authentic and sincere about what you were talking about. And that did carry on throughout. After you transitioned, and was a transition to when you talked about colon cancer, your authenticness and your sincerity continued on through it. You had really good contact pretty much with everything. I didn't see anything change to something I didn't like to see. I would have liked you to use your voice a little bit more on the colon cancer part. I'm not sure if you wanted to focus more on that in your speech, if that was your focal point of your speech was the colon cancer, but I would like to have seen you use your voice a little bit more on that. The one on Christmas, you used quite a bit your voice and changed it, but I didn't notice that you really measured out on the colon cancer part. You did a fairly good transition with going from the Christmas story to the talking about colon cancer. The one thing, maybe you need to work on it so it stands out, but your opening, I think maybe you need to work on it because I can't remember what your opening was. So I'm not sure that it really stood out enough for me to remember what it was, but I did remember your closing, and I think that was good. Don't make them guess. That brought them back to the whole story of what you were talking about, and probably what your whole purpose was don't make you guess, and don't make them guess. And it was an attempt when you said don't make them guess. I think it was an attempt at getting the audience interacted with what you were saying, what you said throughout your speech. I want to say your energy was really good, and it changed a little bit with different stories. So just make sure your energy is what you want it to be. And I was asked to say, how did you make me feel? And I'll tell you, I feel connected. It brought back memories because our stories are similar. And so it brought back memories of that, and I had compassion for your whole story. I mean, the whole thing. And one thing that it asked me to say is, did the speaker make the sale? What will I do differently tomorrow? And what I wrote down was that I will think about, am I communicating what I need to say so that they aren't guessing what I need, is what I got from that I will start doing. Great speech. I do think you need to have a little fine tuning to do, but I think it's going to be fantastic. And I'm turning it over, I think, to, is it
You're turning it over to Phil.
Phil? Okay, go ahead, Phil.
And Emmy, it's an honor to give you a little bit of feedback from the humor perspective. And I was looking at all of the little trinkets that we've been given over the year for humor in the club, introducing humor. I would say my overall view is, in a summary, is that you had bits of humor tied in with each of the major kind of somber, oftentimes a theme of your speech. But they were catchy, especially the parts where you spoke about seeing the person at the side of the road with the schlepping bag. And that was a great play on words. And then you not only had the sign with it, but you then did a callback to it when you went into the Goodwill or the thrift shop and found a sleeping bag. So that's a good call. For me, that was a good callback and a good way to make a little humor fit into that very kind of serious discussion. I thought your play on your daughter's wanting her own room was well done. I think there's an opportunity there, though, to make it even more humorous. I don't know. This is not my strong suit, but I think there's an opportunity in there with either voices or perhaps some kind of irony in there with your daughter asking Santa for her own room. And then one of the things that did give me a little chuckle is when you started talking about how you are now incorporating the clear, concise, and complete description of what you want. And you talked about going out to the churches, giving your presentation on your health program, and then, and they pay me, So I think many people will hear that and relate on some level of, wow, wouldn't it be cool to be a paid speaker like ME? I don't know if this was your intent. The one last thing that I wanted to bring up that did it wasn't humorous in the sense like a guffaw humor, but kind of a chuckle inside humor when you talked about yourself going deep down inside yourself to understand your background, your history. Well, to me, that was a callback to your colon cancer. And I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it really made me think, oh, look at that. There's a thing that a little callback there. With that, I am going to thank you for a great speech, and I will turn it over. I think I'm just going to go straight to the next speaker. Mary, give me a nod, or do you want me to introduce you?
No, you can go right to
Okay.
Emmy for Helen. Yeah.
Okay, so the next speaker evaluation on number 2 is a story evaluation with ME.
Okay, thank you, Phil, for that. Helen, I really enjoyed that speech because it had so much of a wonderful message for all of us and covered such a important part of our history that is still evolving with hybrid meetings and in-person meetings, and how do we move through all of that. And I'm doing your story evaluation. So when I was listening for the story, you had let's say that you had three different stories because you had three different parts of your message. There was the membership, mindset, and mission. And the membership, you were talking about your moving through your job and your boss pulling, what are you, got you on thin ice. I think that was it. And how you took that into Toastmasters, you used that as basically as a what is a springboard to move into the Toastmaster part of this, where you had a huge failure in your life and you found your way through it using Toastmasters. And then the next part of your story was when you were talking about the mindset and needing to change your mindset or to have a positive mindset. And for that, when you were using the all right. Oh, how scared you were. Everyone was freaking out because they were having to do this online and then nobody knew how to do it. And so you go to this meeting and there's all these dark screens and you tell your own story about how worried you were about how you were not going to be able to help them. And then you changed your mindset and focused on how you could help them, which was awesome because they gradually started turning on their screens and enjoying being with each other. So it was a way to change their mindsets as well. And then you moved on to the mission. And what is your mission? And of course, we all know what Toastmasters' mission is, but the story became understand, moving out of your comfort zone and using that whenever you have a challenge that takes you out of your comfort zone, you get to learn something and you get to apply that to what other people are learning. So I thought you did a very effective job of using your stories to tell this very important or give this very important message. So kudos to you for that. And that was a very complex speech. I liked it. So thank you. And I'm going to move. You know what? I don't know who's doing the next. Cynthia. I'm going to turn this over to Cynthia to do the content and effectiveness.
Okay, I'm going to attempt to do this and time myself at the same time. It will be entertaining. So, Helen, I thought you did a great speech. I thought that I'm doing content and effectiveness evaluations. I thought there was great passion in your speaking and good. Oh, I liked how you started very strong with a quote from another relevant Helen. I couldn't get the last name. I did not write that down, but it was an excellent segue into your speech. And you had the three parts of it. You had the membership, the mindset, and the mission. You had good choices for your stories. And they definitely spoke to the different areas. The one thing I would suggest is timer. You said it was a 6 to 8 minute speech. It's probably more like a 13 to 15 minute speech. I think you need to keep that in mind because you went way over, but I only noticed because I timed. I was, if I had not been timing, I would have been so fascinated and so into the story that I wouldn't have realized that that was over. You had good gestures and but you could keep them lower. I liked when you had the two different people talking to you, you use the two different hands, one on each side, like the devil and the angel on your shoulder that we see sometimes in cartoons. I I like that invocation. You might want to slow down. You speak a little bit quickly, but you had a lot of material to get through, so I can see why. But if you had a 13 to 15-minute speech, you would be able to take the time and maybe slow your pace down. Other than that, it was awesome. And you changed your energy during the speech very well. And you made me recommitted to Toastmasters. So bravo.
And over to Karen. You can unmute, please.
Thank you very much, Mary, and most especially Helen, for your very powerful and inspirational speech. I would classify your speech in that way versus what I would classify as a humorous speech. You used a little bit of humor throughout, and I'm going to highlight that and maybe suggest a couple other ways you can bring some humor in. But I loved your story, your flow. It was appropriate for the audience. It was very clear and easy to follow, and it truly was inspirational for a group like this. So thank you for sharing that. Looking at humor, because humor is a powerful tool. Humor is one where when someone laughs, whatever you say next, they really hear. So if you can get them to laugh, then you know they're right there with you and they're going to hear whatever you say next. Now, I didn't catch any laughing moments, but I caught several areas where you used humorous tools. My favorite was where you used, if you get everything out of Toastmasters, then you won't be getting out of Toastmasters. And I loved that. I thought that was very powerful. And you kind of came back to that same thing when you said, grow out of your comfort zone, and then you don't grow out of your, and then you use Toastmasters out of your, I can't remember exactly how you said it, but you get out of your comfort zone and you get out of Toastmasters. And I thought that was kind of a nice play on the first one that you did. And I think you actually could have brought that back at the very end again, since you already used it twice, use the power of three and use it again at the end in a callback that you get out of Toastmasters. So you don't get out of Toastmasters, but you take it out, something along those lines. I think there was a little bit of power there. A couple other things you might have used because of the way you framed your speech was, we were on the same page, I thought, but really we were in a different book, or something, because we weren't quite in sync. You could have said something around, well, you don't say, but wait a minute, you do say. And so, you're pulling in your point, but using a little bit of play on words. And that might be something. I don't think it's a speech for out laughing. Because I think it's very powerful and inspirational the way it is. So I really did like the little trickles of humor that you used and the play on words that you used. You pulled in a little bit of wordplay and pun. You might also try a little bit of surprise. That might be a way to pull everybody in, like have your power of three use two things and then make the third thing something we don't expect. And then we remember it more and you can come back to that. So maybe something with that, but truly a powerful speech. And I was focusing just in on the humor primarily. And thank you very much for sharing that story with us. I loved your journey. And now I guess I turn it over to myself. Is that right? to speak to Joel. Joel, thank you so much. What a perfect way for you to begin your membership with the club by giving an introduction of yourself and telling a little bit of your journey, of your story. Your story was very easy to follow because you went chronologically. You told us you started out, where you were born. You had your setting was very clear. You talked about where you grew up, what your name meant, and that you were in a time of war. And then you went through key things that happened that you remember in your life and what they meant to you. And then you talked about your journey of going to school and back into India and then learning all these languages and then finally going into Canada and now working towards your citizenship there. So certainly a wonderful story, a wonderful journey, and you took us on it, and it absolutely meets the criteria for an icebreaker because it helps us get to know you a little bit more. The other thing I loved about it was that it makes us want to know more. And it's always good to have a story where at the end you say, I want to know more. So from a storytelling standpoint, very, very powerful. You were obviously the main character and your word pictures were powerful and your dialogue and narrative was good. And I really thank you for that. And I think, when you do the next one, you might even be able to utilize a little bit of props. You've had a lot of experiences and I think some props might even add to that and help us connect with you even more. So I really do thank you very much for this story and for sharing it and for helping us get to know you. And we're thrilled to have you part of this club and this group working on story and humor. And with that, I turn it over to, who do I turn it over to? I turn it
That's
over.
me. Thank you, Karen.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I'm the one who will share my feedback on content effectiveness for Jerry. So hi, Jerry. Thank you for this lovely speech. I feel I was intrigued by the way you open speech by illustrating what your name means. Actually, this is the name we are not familiar with. So when you explain that, we need to know inside of you. So this is the way I really enjoy. And also you organize the content very well in a chronological order, which shows you have you have clear logic in arranging your contents and make us like a historical story like display in front of us. Yeah, and you end up with story, your life story with a very sincere tonality. So these are your strengths when you're even making your first speech. If I could give you some advice, I am thinking what intrigued me is the name and what you're trying to tell us as a person throughout the whole speech. So for example, you tell us that your name means the best figure, the smile of the king. So I'm just wondering if you want to use like 3 key words to summarize how good you are. For example, when you are living and moving to different country, you are good at cross-cultural communications. And when you're taking care of families, you are good at taking care of a family and sending them love and care. And when you are moving to a foreign country, you have to learn a lot of things, and you even join Toastmasters, which you are good at learning. So if you can summarize all of your enriched life stories into like 3 keywords, that will help us to find how good you are and come back to the essence of your name is the king finger. Thank you very much. Let me get back to our third evaluator, who is Cherry.
Hi, Joel. I had the humor evaluation part of your speech. And first of all, I'm going to say right off, you had humor having to do with your name. And that stood out and it was kind of hilarious. And I think that was good that you had the opportunity to do that. We can all relate to that. I was named after a tugboat. And I don't think it was planned that way, but I was born 3 months early. And so they didn't know what to name me. So that's what they named me when I was born. And because we live in Seattle, Washington, in the United States, Seattle, Washington, and there's a lot of tugboats around. So that's what, so it really stood out to me and I related to that. I noticed that your timing and pauses, there wasn't much there. you kind of got pushed together. It was a great icebreaker. I loved your icebreaker because it told us a lot about you. But everything kind of moved together. If you had paused a little bit between sentences of different things that you were telling us, it would have helped to kind of help us see where you're at in your life. I liked that you talked about where you were going to, and I think you have an opportunity to put some humor in when you move to Canada. I really think there was an opportunity there for that transition from, one country to another, and be able to put some humor in there and talk about that. All in all, it was a great icebreaker. I'm glad you're in the club, and I'm actually looking forward to the possibility of hearing more about your life from what you just said in your icebreaker. I'll turn this back to our evaluator, our general evaluator, I think.
All right, thank you. I really appreciate all of our evaluators tonight for focusing on the strengths of our speakers, and when they're giving them feedback on something that they could improve, being very specific and giving examples. This was one of the first times we've used the form. We've developed the form and that we've used the form, and I could certainly see some opportunities where maybe the form could be itself clearer. So I would welcome any of our evaluators to provide feedback to Kyle. I'm going to throw it back to Kyle because he's our VPE, to provide feedback on how that worked for you. Is it clear enough what you are evaluating? And because that's the whole point of this, is that we're really trying to be clear. When we give evaluation, we could focus on that very specific thing. I have only one other thing to say about tonight's meeting before I transition out of general evaluator role to help us get back on time, and that is time. Time, folks. So it's on me that I didn't clearly communicate to the timer what the timing was. And it's kind of like, I'll say it's on all of us, whatever our role is. It could have been Phil, could have been me, it could have been Kyle. It could have been Cynthia, to say, what are the timings for our speeches tonight, so that we made sure we actually had time to do all of the things that we thought we were going to do. It was a very ambitious meeting, as it turned out. And I really appreciate, once we noticed that we kind of hurried through the evaluation. So thank you, Phil, and both Kyle actually sent messages about we're running a little behind. Yes, indeed. So now I'm going to use that moment to say my general evaluation is over. Let me call on our timer to say, Cynthia, how'd we do?
All right, thank you. Lee, 16 minutes and 39 seconds. Kyle, 9 minutes and 21 seconds. ME, 7 minutes and 29 seconds. So you got right under the wire. So you might need to, since you are practicing this as a speech. Helen, 14 minutes and 4 seconds. Joel, 7 minutes and 30 seconds. Okay, for evaluations, Karen, the first one was 2 minutes and 13 seconds for ME speech. Cheryl, 4 minutes and 9 seconds. Phil, 2 minutes and 51 seconds. For Helen's speech, ME, 3 minutes and 24 seconds. I did 2 minutes and 34 seconds. Karen did 3 minutes and 10 seconds. And for Joel's speech, Karen did 1 minute and 53 seconds. Helen did 2 minutes, and Cheryl did 1 minute and 33 seconds.
All right, thank you. And reading this little note from Lee that our theme of today could have been loquacious. Yes, and Kyle says a little bit of wordplay. We don't have to be great to start, but we need to start to become great. Exactly. Good wordplay. Well done. Toastmasters, thank you for that and coming tonight. And I'm turning it to our Toastmaster to close out this portion of our meeting before turning it over to the club business. Back to you, Phil.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. My comments are brief. I'm very thankful for everyone being here and for everyone participating in such a meaningful and helpful way. Thank you to our guest, our division director as our guest. And with that, I think